Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross and today I'm going to be reviewing the Chaos Knights army set. What I'm calling build or bust. Basically, is this worth getting or is it not? Now how it's going to work is I'm not going to actually look so much into the contents of the box. We've all seen sprues before and stuff. What I'm really going to talk about is really the units that you get inside. I'm going to talk a lot about the rules and such as I have seen the codex, and give you a bit more of my idea behind them. For further sort of real more in-depth analysis, there is, of course, we do a review on the Chaos Knight Codex, but also there is many ways to see some of the rules out there at the moment. There is plenty of leaks at the moment we have seen when it comes to Games Workshop stuff at the moment, so some of you might already have an idea for the rules. But I'm going to talk about in terms of the models in here and what I think of them. So there is potentially 3 models you've got inside here. We have the Knight Abominant, which is the psychic oriented knight, which does fine melee, it does okay in shooting. My only real criticism is that it doesn't really excel at any of these. We then have 3 options when it comes to War Dogs. We have the War Dog Stalker, one of the War Dog variants. This one is this sort of little bit in between where it has the chain cannon and then it has the Slaughter Claw. Now the Slaughter Claw is the combat oriented claw, and it absolutely slaps. It is a really good weapon, but I think that actually goes better with the Carnivore. Now the War Dog Carnivore is your combat orientated War Dog, and probably the one that is absolutely dedicated to it. It doesn't have any ranged weapons whatsoever, but it actually does really well in combat. So yeah, when it comes to having that claw, I much prefer the Carnivore. Then we have the War Dog Brigand, which is your ranged one, which has a Demon Breast Spear and a Chain Cannon, which is threatening, pretty good, and I'd probably say as a backfield unit it might be contending with the old War Dog Executioner, which is like your autocannon one. But yeah, it will not do well in combat at all, so if it gets stuck it's going to be a little bit tricky. Could probably still fire its weapons in combat for a bit of defense, but not having any melee stuff can be a bit tricky for things of this size. So let's go into how I feel about the units themselves. Now, the big one to speak about is the Knight Abominant. What is the main cost of the box is going to be on that. Now, it is, I believe, 430 points off the top of my notes, and I'll double check it to make sure I have definitely got that right. Yeah, 430 points. And again, I can't reiterate this more than anything, it feels like a jack of all trade, master of none. So in terms of stats and stuff, it's movement 10, which deteriorates, weapon skill plus skill 3, which deteriorates, strength and toughness 8, 24 wounds, 3 attacks, which is, I believe, the least out of just about every knight here, or at least the big ones, leadership 9, 3 up save. The weapons itself, the Volkite Combustor, is a 30-inch heavy 6 weapon, strength 10, which is nice, minus 1 AP and 3 damage, and each time you make an unmodified wound roll of 3, you cause 3 mortal wounds on top of additional damage. That seems really nice, but really you're looking at realistically only getting those 3 mortal wounds. Maybe you might get it once a turn, you might get it twice a turn. It's only 6 shots, so statistics say probably once every 2 turns. And then you've also got the Bale Mace, which is strength user minus 2 to damage, and it is an additional D3 attacks to its normal 3, and then it's Electro Scourge, which is strength user minus 2, 3 damage, and you make 3 attacks with it instead of 1. So you get 9 attacks with that, then a further D3 with the Bale Mace. Then you have the Titanic Feat, which I just don't see using at all. You have your psychic abilities. You do know 2, and you can cast 2 and deny 1. You know Smite and 2 abilities. And the abilities are fine. So far looking at them, there's nothing too much that I was like, whoa, that makes a must take. But there is some nice ones. There is the Winds of Warp, which is a Warp Charge 6. And if you cast it, the Psyker ignores wounds on a 5+. And if you get it on 8 or more, then War Dogs in 6 inches get a 6 up ignore wounds. That's fine, but again, you're going to find a lot in this codex. They really didn't want to go too far with how they sort of make survivability, etc. And that kind of annoyed me. There just seems to be small parts where they're like, we could go that step further, and they don't. Now, that seems strange to say because we feel like codex creep, but when, certainly in survivability, Knights are going to suffer a lot because this is a high damage edition. Many weapons do extraordinary amounts of damage, and sometimes you take chaff to absorb that. Knights don't really have that luxury, And so if this had just been, if you'd cast it, you get ignore 5 up on the Psyker, and say if you got 8 or more, you could actually cast it on another knight of any type, then this would be a great spell, but it's that extra one goes on to War Dogs in the area, and it just feels a little bit lacking on that side. Then we have another one, which is Storm Malevolent, which is 6 up to cast. You cast it onto an enemy unit within 18 inches, and any Chaos Knights that make a melee attack against that unit add 1 to their wound roll. And on an unmodified wound roll of 6, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to normal damage, and they get 3 mortal wounds maximum from that one. Now, because it's limited to melee, I'm a little bit despondent on that one, because knights hit really hard in melee. The War Dogs would probably get a lot more benefit from it, but there will be cases where you're already wounding on 2, especially if you're bringing a claw. So I feel this again, just ignore the mortal wounds part. Give it +1 to wound on that target. It's like a doomed target. Think of, again, Doom like Craft Worlds, where you get to reroll wounds. If you just go and look, it's +1 to wound that from all knights in the shooting and fight phase, then that would be an absolute kick-ass spell. So you've got these spells, and those are the 2 sort of highlights I saw. If the other ones are better, other people might say on that one, but they're the 2 that stood out to me, because the mortal wound ones, there just doesn't seem to be enough mortal wounds on it. It just doesn't seem to tip ahead. So this is a 430 point model. Now keep in mind, Magnus is 450 points, I believe, at the current moment, and his psychic abilities are way outstripping this one. Way out. And combat capabilities, I believe Magnus is better as well. Yeah, I'd probably say Magnus is better, and shooting, well, this guy wins, but not by huge amounts. So it's that big difference when people aren't really taking Magnus at the moment either, that I'm a little bit hesitant with this unit. It's very cool looking, it's an absolute stellar model, but I feel there was just little bits in the rules that have kept it back. Now I'm going to speak about the War Dogs. Now I'm only going to speak about one of them because I thought I'd highlight the one that I would create if, well, I do have one of these boxes. And that is the War Dog Carnivore. Now this is the combat orientated one. So it has 2 weapons on it, which is the Reaper Chain Talon, which has a strike and a sweep option. I'll only speak about the sweep option because I'd probably say that's the best one to go for in those ones. And the sweep is basically you get 2 additional you make 2 hits instead of 1, and it's strength user -3/1 damage. Fine. But then the Slaughter Claw is ×2 strength, -3 AP, and D3 +3 damage, which is a lot of damage from a singular 140 point model. 5 points for its additional sort of Havoc launcher. Now, I should go into the stats. The stats are movement 14, which deteriorates, but movement 14 is great. Weapon skill 2, which is deteriorates, but very, very good for a combat orientated knight. A lot of these are 3, bar I think the Carnivore and the Rampager. Bliss skill 3, don't really mind. I mean, you've got the Havoc launcher, but fair. Strength 6, toughness 7, 12 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 8, and a 3 up save. So you've got increased movement at 14, 2 up to hit, and 5 attacks. And if you go Iconoclast, if you charge, wear charge, etc., that goes up to 6 attacks. And that ×2 strength -3, D3 +3 damage is a lot of damage for such a small thing. I really, really like that, especially in this edition where board control is very, very important. And I believe the rules, if I remember, I could go and check them, but some of the rules are a bit complicated worded, is that your War Dogs, if you are going a pure knight one, they've got OBSEC and they count as 5 models each for the purpose of working out. So correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Some people will be like, we don't have the book yet. But off the top of my head, that is the way it goes. So these are really good for going out there, hunting out just about any unit out there. Except for maybe, well, there's not many. Just if you're able to go Iconoclast, and you don't need to, you're going to get 6 attacks, 5 attacks normally, and anything that has multi-wounds, you can chomp it down with the Slaughter Claw. And then if you encounter orcs or, you know, you've got Admech trying to sweep the field with loads of numbers, you can use the sweep attack from your Reaper Chain Talon. So I really, really rate that. I reckon that, certainly for us, we've got a few Chaos Knights. I will be making 2 of them almost as a no-brainer. The Stalker is okay as a sort of multi-use side, and I suppose the Brigand as a sort of backfield unit might be quite good, but I think to be able to have very, very affordable upfront units that are going to control the board, the Carnivore does really well in that regard. I just think the Slaughterclaw is an absolute phenomenal unit. You know, your minimum of damage 4 if it goes through, and then you could be getting damage 6 at hit at strength 12. That's going to wound, I think, even Custody bikes on a 2+. And does it slay them instantly? I don't think it does unless you get a 5. But that is still really, really reliable, so I really like that. Let's talk about the cost now. This is a bit of estimates on that one. I don't know them for sure. The Night Abominant is expected, in my mind, going to be about £95 to £100. Yep, I'm talking about pounds because I am Scottish. War Dogs are going to be about £47.50. Now, they could be more because I think there's more sprues in that. I'm going with the price of the previous one on Games Workshop's site. They could be more. They could be in the region of £50 to £55 because I think there is more sprues in that one. But hopefully they're going to be about £47.50. Codex, estimate about £32.50 because that was the Tyrannid Codex price. And then the cards themselves are £17, which brings us to a total of about £192 to £197 value in the box. I expect this to go for about £150, which with our fabulous discounts that we do get in the UK, unfortunately some areas in the world aren't as lucky in that one. We do find many access to 20% or 25% off, so you're looking at about £120 to £112.50. Now, where do I rate this in terms of looking at, now I've looked at the units themselves and what I think about them and also the price of it. I'm giving this a very tentative 6 out of 10 build. So not a bust, but a build. Now, I'm saying this tentatively, and why? If you're playing by optimized gameplay that you want to play competitive, I don't see the Psyker possibly being there. There's a lot of combinations of this that could factor. I think the relics are excellent in this. The stratagems are really good. The warlord traits are meh. Some legion traits, the households, are good as well. And then you have the dedication to the gods. So there may be a combination of all that makes it fantastic. But I just see other units in here that are actually just going to be competitively better, and I'm not even taking into account Forge World in that regard. So it just was not a standout unit. As I said, I compared it to Magnus, and I mean, I don't even think it's even close, and Magnus is not a must-have unit. However, it is a very, very cool unit for the Psyker unit. It is very, very cool model. If you're a Chaos Knight player and you're like, oh, I really think it's quite nice, then go for it. I think it's a stunning model. I even think, and I'm not going to promise this at the moment because I haven't tested it, though I might be able to have a look at the comments, you can change the arms with other knights. It does look like that could happen. And then you can keep the chassis and use it as maybe the despoiler or something. Maybe. You'd have to get the arms from somewhere else. Many people can convert and such. So if you like the chassis on it as well, then yeah, there's plenty of reasons in terms of the build. But in terms of gameplay, I'm just on initial inspection not sold. The War Dogs, however, I think are actually very, very good. Unfortunately, they are the more cheaper units, so that's why it's not going to be a higher score in that one. They brought the score quite a lot. Most, I'd imagine, Knight players probably, I don't know, I've not played Chaos Knights in a long time, probably want to get at least 2 of these Carnivores, maybe 3, and have them just absolutely whip around the field. They will give you a good bit of board control that isn't a giant knight in on it itself. I know that Rob is playing Chaos Knights, or may have, not at this point of me filming, probably when this comes out, and not with the new codex, but I think he's playing against like 13 War Dogs or something, he told me, so some of them are going to be Forge World. I think these Carnivore ones, and you can quote me if I'm wrong on this, are going to take over in terms of your board control, going on to points and then either accepting charges from your opponent or charging them and trying to sweep them off. So yeah, I can see them doing very, very well. So that really brought up my rating a lot. If they weren't so good, then this would have been a bust, almost certainly. In terms of the cards, see if Maelstrom was more of a thing like it was in 8th edition and 7th edition, then yeah, I'll rate the cards more. I do like the cards because I use them for stratagems and keeping note of stuff. But losing Maelstrom, I'd probably say cards are no longer as essential as they used to be. And the codex, if you're interested, the codex is interested. So that's kind of my overall thoughts when it comes to the Chaos Knights army set. It is not a bad set, but it's certainly not one of the greats. If you remember the Chaos Knight one, which was not Chaos Knight, but it was like 2 knights in them, it was like the gold standard to box sets when it came to knights. I think just the weapon options in them was incredible, if I remember. That was many years ago. This one, the big unit, the big seller one, is not what's selling it. It is a great looking unit, very, very cool, but it's just its rules aren't quite there. And I could be wrong with that. Again, many people have probably seen leaks, or as this is coming out, probably many reviews on top of it, but it's just not quite there. But for those who really enjoy the hobby of Chaos Knights, yeah, it's different. It's got the tentacles, it's got the crazy gun, it's got the horns. That to me really kind of pushed over into the build section, but in the rules I feel that big main unit has slightly let it down. So that is my thoughts when it comes to the Chaos Knight box set. A big thank you to Games Workshop for allowing us to review it, let you know our thoughts, and what do you want from out of it. Are you sold on it? Do you think, wow, it's such a cool unit, I must have it in my collection? And I know when it comes to knights and things, a lot of knight players do tend to be like, yeah, I want to try out at least one of each. But on a competitive side, I am a little bit lacking on that one in terms of what my thoughts are. So thanks again. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Check us out on social media where we are working on projects. I have AdMech I'm working on. I started them in 2020 and then I learned just how to base them a few weeks ago. So I'm really now getting to a lot of them. I'm working on Imperial Fists at the moment. I've got terrain to do. Maybe I should do a Chaos Knight. David did say, can you do it? And I said, long list. So yeah, there's plenty of things that we're working on. I really should take more photos and get them up there. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on our Tabletop Assault Battle Reports.